Hello. Welcome to another YouTube Live. Here we are. Every Monday, I'm here, and this is your chance to ask all the questions related to NLP, anxiety, confidence, beliefs, emotions, numerology, anything that is related with my work. And also, if you're curious about how I apply these in my personal life as well. And yes, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in. And today I wanted to talk about something in particular. So I did pop a little question on Instagram asking if anyone had any particular questions, though no one had any specific questions at the moment, though maybe some of you listening and watching live have some questions. So if you do, pop them in the chat. And I wanted to talk about something in particular in the meantime. So I wanted to talk about something that is really, really like one of the biggest things we talk about in NLP. So neuro-linguistic programming, talking all about the mind, the emotions, and the beliefs. And I wanted to talk about something that is like one of the biggest things. It's also very common to talk about this in therapy as well and other modalities out there, not just NLP. And this scale, so there's two ends of the scale. This scale that I'm going to talk about is key. If we want to create change in our life, this is key to understand. It's so important. And so often people end up at one end and then they're wondering why nothing's changing in their life. And I've been there many times myself also. And there's two sides to this scale. There's two ends to this scale. So some of you who have learned NLP, who have been in the coaching field or have received coaching may have heard of this before. If you have, this is a wonderful recap and a wonderful way to really reflect on this and get clear on if there are any other areas in your life that you haven't addressed. And if this is new to you, then great. This is a wonderful introduction. So what I'm talking about is cause and effect. Cause and effect. So if you've heard of that, then this is a great time to recap this. If you haven't, I will explain more. So what I mean by this, it's almost like we have this scale and the two ends. We have one end, cause, and the other end, effect. And what this means is that when I work with clients, I really get them to understand and move towards being at cause rather than being at effect. Essentially, what I'm doing is I'm helping them and guiding them to take responsibility for their life. So not to play the victim, not to be like, oh, well, he made me feel like that, or she made me feel like this, or that happened because of blah, blah, blah. It's, yes, of course, we have challenging situations in our life, and some people have really challenging situations in their lives. And it's not to say, I'm not talking about like, oh, everything is your fault. No, what I'm talking about is like, how can we take responsibility? How can we, like, whatever happens in our life, how can we respond rather than react? So there's an important difference there. Like, how can we respond rather than reacting or lashing out or blaming or pointing the finger at other people? And this is something that virtually every single person has done in their life at some point, and most people do it on a daily basis. And I've done this many times as well myself. And every time I did this, I was disempowering myself, and I was essentially just being a victim, and that wasn't helping to create change at all. So taking responsibility and really looking at, okay, how did I contribute to this challenge or this situation? Or how can I make this a stepping stone forward rather than using it as a brick wall, like rather than playing the victim and like, oh, well, I can't do anything. That's how it is. This happens so often and on many different levels. I've heard clients blaming ex-partners. I've heard clients blaming parents. I've heard clients blaming themselves. I've heard clients blaming situations and maybe health issues as well. I've had clients blaming the government. That's a big one. Like a lot of people, plenty of people have a lot to say about the government and things going on in the world. Blaming money, blaming, like, always the finger pointing out there. And the thing is that when we're placing all of our attention and our focus on what's out there, and we're making something out there responsible for how we live our life and how we enjoy our life, how we like the experience of our life, when we do that, we're disempowering ourselves. We're giving all the power outside of ourselves. We're giving all the power to something else. And if we want to create change, if we want to have a different experience in our life, we need to take responsibility. Like, okay, how am I contributing to whatever challenge is present in my life? Like, what am I doing that's not helpful? Asking ourselves opening questions, like, what am I doing that's not helpful? Like, how am I contributing to this? Like, how can I look at this differently? Like, what things can shift? Like, what can I do differently? Like, how can I see the perspective? How can I see things differently? How can I take different actions and do different things? The words that we speak, perhaps we can talk about the situation in a different way. After my, like, many years ago, some of you listening to the podcast would have heard of this big experience that I had one relationship in the past that was very abusive emotionally and psychologically, and it was a very tough experience to go through. And after that, healing through trauma, I noticed that, yes, there was that period of time where I felt like the victim and I was blaming that person. I was blaming a lot of things. And then it came to this time where I realized I needed to rewrite the story. I needed to change my language, how I spoke about it, how I spoke about them, how I spoke about the situation, how I spoke about the experience. Changing the story and not dwelling on things and not going over things. We're like, oh, well, he did that, or it was like that, or blah, blah, blah. Like, changing that story and be like, okay, this was one of the greatest wake-up calls. He was one of my greatest teachers. Like, changing the way that I saw it. And by doing that, I was taking back my power and not playing the victim. So, of course, this is a challenging thing to accept sometimes, especially if we've been through some things that have been very, very challenging, like abuse. And it's not to say that, like, it's not about like pointing the finger at ourselves and like blaming ourselves and giving ourselves a hard time. It's not about that. It's just like, okay, how can I change things? How can I move forward? So just notice, just get curious. Like, if there are certain things, or like when you're in dialogue with someone, like, for example, if you have like a little conflict with someone, like a loved one, a friend, or perhaps a partner, a family member, and notice in that discussion, like, do you say phrases like, you made me feel like this, you did this, and you just essentially just like placing all the blame onto the other person. And this is very common and very easy to do. Thing is, though, nobody can make us feel a certain way. They can do certain things that can trigger us, that then internally we put a meaning to that, we attach a meaning to that, that then cultivates that emotion, that then that emotion comes up. So essentially it's us creating that emotion, but like the feeling within is not them making it. It's like other people are mirrors and they're triggers. They just like press a button. some people more than others. If that's like family members or partners, sometimes it can feel like they're always pressing the buttons. And it's like, oh, like, Okay, but then it always gives us an opportunity to look at that. We're like, okay, yeah, perhaps that really triggers me, that bothers me. How can I learn about myself? So it's not about blaming and shaming and pointing the finger out there. It's like all about discovering ourselves, all about coming back to ourselves. And this is what NLP is about. It's about coming back within. How have I contributed? How have I influenced this situation? And how can I go about things differently? So if you have any questions or if there are particular challenges you're going through at the moment, then use this opportunity, like pop them in the chat. And I love hearing your comments. This is your chance to get some free coaching support every week I'm here. So yeah, I just wanted to mention this about the cause and effect. Like, where are you? I love to hear, like, where do you, on that scale, where do you see yourself? Are you at cause? Like, are you taking responsibility in your life for your health, for your well-being, for your money situation, your work, relationships? Or are you at effect? Are you pointing the finger and blaming something or someone for why you haven't experienced or why you don't have what you want in your life right now? This can be a tough pill to swallow for some people because it's easy to blame. It's very easy to blame. Though when we blame, when we point the finger, that doesn't create happiness. It doesn't create happiness. Okay, so yes, I do so, but only according to look for the others, like the opposite. So I'm not quite sure what you mean there. So do you mean that you blame the other, but then for them to notice something? Yeah, just let me know. Yeah, so it's very easy to do that. And it doesn't mean that we put up with behavior. It doesn't mean that we point things out. Of course. Okay, no, I do everything for everyone else. Okay, and does that feel good? If it doesn't, then perhaps boundaries is the thing that you can look at. Like, what feels good? And afterwards, I blame myself to not set boundaries. Yes, so yeah, boundaries. So this is a big one, and you can learn from experience. So looking at past experiences, if there have been certain situations in your life where you notice, oh, I crossed some boundaries there with myself and I didn't feel so good afterwards, have a look, like pick 2 or 3 situations in your past and just look at the similarities. Notice what's similar and notice if there are any telltale signs in the beginning, like you feeling frustrated, feeling resentful, noticing tension in your body. This can be a really powerful thing, is just to have daily check-ins with yourself and your body and just notice, like when I did this as a practice, I didn't realize how much tension I held within my jaw. And then I realized that I was holding on to frustration. So there's some frustration there. So it's noticing those early signs. It's really important. And then in the future, you can perhaps know like what feels good, what doesn't feel good, like what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, and express that. And if you're struggling to express that, then having some phrases, having some sentences that you memorize and you have there, like within your mind, within your heart, like you remember those phrases and you can start using those. And simply explaining that this is for the best of everyone, because you'll be able to give the best of yourself and really help other people when you are full and when you're not stretching yourself. So go easy on yourself. It is a journey, boundaries. Go easy on yourself. Okay, another question. I've gone through very challenging situations related to setting boundaries, and in some cases, I had to reach unpleasant limits to say no. But once you learn the lesson, you are much stronger. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And it's okay to say no. It's okay to say no. And it's really interesting to notice that this weekend I was on a dance workshop all weekend, and we were dancing no, and we were dancing yes, and we were dancing maybe. Like, we were really tuning in with the somatics of our body and noticing the differences. Like, what does a no feel like in your body? What does a yes feel like in your body? What does a maybe, not sure, feel like in your body? And really getting in touch with that and noticing that, because it's almost like those automatic responses, right? That, like, for example, like, people say, oh, how are you? I'm fine. Like, there's just this automatic response that comes out before we've even actually checked in with ourselves and our body. Oh, how am I today? Like, how do I feel? Oh, okay, perhaps there's some things there. Like, it's like an automatic response that comes out for most people. So taking that moment just to tune in and notice those subtle differences within the body, and really like notice, like, okay, yeah, like when I notice my jaw clenching up, that's a sign. That's a sign that something's bothering me, something's stressing me out. Then I can slow down, take a deep breath, notice what that is, and make adjustments if I need to. Is there also a way to see where the scale, for me, time to time with others, is good for extroverts? So you mean with the boundaries, to notice, to notice the, like, where you are. It's all about awareness. It's coming back to awareness and really tuning into ourselves. The more we can, the thing that I do is I have a reminder on my phone, and this is such a simple thing we can do. A reminder on my phone, it pops up 5 times a day, and every time it pops up, it literally says check in. And then that's a moment where I can just check in, because so often we're rushing around, busy, doing, like like at work, or rushing around, or we're filling space and time and like mental capacity with scrolling and Instagram and busying our mind with different things. It's like we're distracting ourselves. Like, so much of society is set up to distract ourselves from the core of who we are and our physical body. So the more we can just keep that practice in, and it's really simple to do, like a very simple, practical thing to do. Just put a reminder on your phone, pop up 5 times a day or once a day if you just want to start off slowly, and check in. It's like, how am I feeling? How's my body feeling? How am I feeling emotionally? Like, what's going on? And then you can start noticing some patterns over time. Like, if perhaps, like, the more awareness you bring and the more you notice in certain situations, like, oh, certain parts of my body are tensing up, or certain emotions coming up at certain situations, or when I'm relating with specific people, that's information. And then with that information, if you're at the end of the scale of being at cause and deciding to take responsibility, then you're at the place where you will ask yourself, okay, what needs changing? What can I do differently? What can I do differently? That will then have a knock-on effect on that. Okay, the hardest part in setting boundaries is dealing with blame and knowing that it's absolutely legitimate to make your own choices and paying attention to your needs without feeling selfish. Yes, there can be this blame that pops up. Either that's with the other person, because if people have become used to us behaving in a certain way and then we suddenly change that, sometimes that can trigger them, but that's their problem. And so blame can come from them. And also sometimes there can be a tendency, if there's been a lot of people pleasing, in your life, there can be a tendency to blame yourself and feel guilty for setting boundaries. And it comes to the point where I used to have no boundaries at all, and I would just like people please all the time and just like do whatever other people wanted. And I realized that that wasn't helping. And I made changes and really worked on the boundaries and started listening to my needs and expressing that. And especially in relationships. And I realized that it got to the point where I loved me more. I loved me more than pleasing the other person. And that's a great place to be. It doesn't mean that you're selfish. It means that you're filling yourself up so you can be at better service and much, much more overflowing with love kind of person to the other people. Okay, I had a week which was heavy with my friend. He thought, okay. And I know he looks for distance more than ever. Okay, yeah, so when someone distances themselves from you, then it can hurt, because this is the thing. It's about those buttons. It's about those triggers. So they're pressing a button, but often these buttons are touching something that is not about the situation itself, because the ego loves to think that, oh, it's about the conversation, or it's about this person, or it's about whatever's happened. Majority of the time, it's nothing to do with them. There's simply just a mirror that's come up and pressed a button so that you can look at something within yourself. So everyone that we interact with in life is teaching us something, and it's highlighting something, an unmet need or an unmet, like a wound that hasn't been tended to, like from childhood. So there's something there about rejection or abandonment, like feeling hurt. And it's not necessarily about him, it's about something from childhood. So, of course, it can hurt. It can hurt. And now, as an adult, you have an opportunity to tend to that, to your inner child. So, a wonderful practice is actually getting a photo of yourself when you're younger and starting having a relationship as an adult relating to your younger child. I have a photo of myself when I was younger on a little table, and I see her every day. I talk to her every day. Like, I say, thank you for being you. And it's a really, really healing practice. And if any hurts come up, simply just being with that, breathing with that, and noticing that. And then if you need further support and work on that, then there are many different modalities out there, whether that's with myself, with NLP, hypnosis, or whether that's or coaching, whether that's with someone else, with other modalities, traditional therapy. Like, there are many different things out there. Family constellations as well is very good. Yeah, healing the inner child is so important, absolutely. And there are so many ways to do it. And as adults, we get the chance to reparent ourselves. Like, okay, what is the need, the unmet need? Like, what did the inner child want? What was it looking for? Often it's one of the 6 basic human needs. So there are many different models of human basic needs. I use the one that is very common, that Tony Robbins was using. So the 6 basic human needs. And often there's a need for safety, a sense of love and belonging, and a sense of significance. Those are the top 3. And then you got some others, like a sense of variety, uncertainty, contribution, and growth. Though very often some of these unmet needs or some of these wounds for the child are from when we didn't feel safe, or we didn't feel that we were loved or belonged, or we felt insignificant, that we felt invisible. So looking at those and finding ways to fill that up can be wonderful. I like to see the the needs almost like little buckets. It's like, okay, how can I fill up those buckets? And how can I fill those up myself, and in a constructive way, in a creative way? There are many ways. So let's brainstorm in the comment section. Let's brainstorm, like, how could we help ourselves? Because this is all about being at cause. Like, it's us doing something for us rather than being on the other end of the scale, which is effect, and just hanging around waiting for other people to change or the world to change. We might be waiting for a while in some situations. So it's like, how can I do something for myself? So with those buckets, like, how can I help myself to feel significant? How can I help myself to feel a sense of love and belonging? How can I help myself to feel safe? So listening to music, great, yeah. Music can be incredibly soothing and uplifting and empowering. Music is wonderful. So there are so many different ways. Yeah, feel the peace, the heat, this, yes. Lying down, resting, yep, absolutely. And so for example, like, to feel safe, there are some somatic practices as well that can be really helpful, like holding the body, like physically, giving yourself a hug, taking a lovely inhale and exhale, gently rocking side to side. These all can be very soothing and can help bring a sense of feeling safe. So it's like, almost like, if we notice that trigger coming up, then we can do those things. And it's like, almost like we're saying to our younger self, it's like, I'm here. It's okay. I'm here. And that's really, really powerful. And to feel a sense of love and belonging, what do you think we could do for that? How can we fill that up for ourselves? Connection with Mother Nature, going back to the basics, absolutely. Connection with nature, yes. Yeah, and I love to think of humanity as, like, I often have this metaphor, I've talked about it in other classes, this metaphor of a puzzle. And humanity is like a puzzle, and every single piece represents a person. And if you take yourself out, like that piece that represents you, if you take it out, the puzzle's incomplete. So this could work both for the love and belonging and also significance. It's like remembering that your piece, like, you are part of that puzzle, you are part of that greater collective. And having that image, having that metaphor can be really helpful to remember that it takes everyone, and you are part of that everyone. That can be a really helpful one to remember, and also to remember about self-care, because if you forget about yourself, if you're only caring for the other people, the other pieces, and then you keep your piece to one side out of that puzzle, then it's incomplete. Also, affirmations, that's another one. Affirmations, like finding words and phrases that uplift you and help you to remember your strengths and your qualities and your gifts. Another comment, we have lost our inner connection and one-to-one real interactions instead of doing so much virtual interactions. Yes. Practicing your passions, doing what really connects to you and your purpose. Yes, absolutely. This is really important. The world is changing so much, and so much is online and digital. And some of this can be useful. I mean, it's great that we can connect now and we can talk and chat, and this is all through technology, though there has been this, it's like this, the scale of that has gone off a little bit, and people have forgotten about, is like they're looking for this multisensory world, and they forget that the multisensory world is right here, right now, in this experience. Like, everyone is like scrolling on the devices and seeking information there and seeking connection there and forgetting that everything is right here. Like we have the surround sound experience, the multi-sensory experience right here, right now in the present moment. And mindfulness can be really useful, coming back to that. There exists this phrase with every partner, you learn to heal something. Yes, everyone's a teacher. Some more potent teachers than others. How can I heal and stay with my partner at the same time? So yeah, this is the thing, is we don't need to be perfect to have a loving relationship, as long as you have your values aligned and some vision for the future that is in alignment, and you both are open in the way of communicating, and you both take responsibility for your triggers and your emotions, the relationship can be successful. Is your partner to open and to grow up with you both together? Yeah, so partners, like everyone, like every relationship's different, but I really feel that every relationship is there. Like some people come into our lives to teach us something, and there are many different levels of this. And doing numerology, that's another part of my work, and really looking at the soul plan and looking at the numbers of each person's birth chart is fascinating. And I've done different partners. I've done charts for like mother child, father child, and also different like partners, like married couples or people in relationships. And it's really fascinating, because often what happens is that there are parallels on both charts, and it's like both people have come in with the same karmic lesson to learn, or like one has one gift and one quality and the other one has come here to learn that, and then vice versa. So on a soul level as well, like we connect with people, like when we feel that strong connection with someone, it can be a trauma bond, so it could be us repeating a pattern. And also there could be some soul connection there as well. They're here to teach us something. Yes. Yeah. So there's so many things. There's so many things. Life is here to help us remember. It's all a journey back of remembrance, like back to the heart of who we truly are. Yeah. If there's a will to thrive together and learn from one another, you've overcome the hardest part. Just keep working together. Yes, beautiful. So I love it how you're interacting with each other as well. This is wonderful. Yes. I love this. Even though I do these classes online, I do in-person stuff every now and again as well. So I used to have an in-person meetup, and that used to be weekly, but then I literally have so many things on my plate, I wasn't able to keep that up. But at some point, I will do some more workshops as well. And I do have a monthly thing that, well, 2 monthly things that happen every month. So I have the Women's Circle in Barcelona, and also I have the dance workshop in Villanova as well every month. So yeah, if there are any more questions, just let me know. And yeah, it's all about being at cause, like really taking responsibility and noticing, like, are we blaming others? Are we holding on to grudges? Are we like holding on to the past and like, oh well, they did this, so then I'm going to do that, or I'm going to withhold my love, or I'm going to punish them in some way? Like it's all about getting really curious. Like the more awareness we can bring and really observe ourselves, like really get curious, like why we do what we do, why we say what we say, like what's behind it, because every trait, every tendency, every behavior has something fueling it. has something fueling it. Yeah, so some people are joining from afar, from other countries. Like I have people all around the world. But yes, absolutely. Maybe I'll do something in Barcelona at some point. I'd love to know what kind of workshop you would be interested in if I was to come to Barcelona. I wanted to do a dance workshop, numerology, but if you want something more NLP related as well, I love hearing what people want. So just let me know. But I do come to Barcelona almost every week because that's where I do my one-on-one sessions. So I'm part of Artemis Women's Health Centre, and I do the one-on-one sessions there for people who prefer in person, because some people prefer that than online sessions. So yeah, so you are welcome. Yes, thank you so much for joining. And if there are any more questions, then just let me know. Okay, interest in NLP, family constellations in a child. Yeah, so I'm not trained in family constellations, but I can talk about my experiences with it. But NLP and inner child work, that's something I have a lot of experience with, and that's why I work in 11 years helping clients with inner child work with NLP. So that's something that I can definitely share. So yeah, just let me know if there are any more questions, and if anyone is interested in the women's circle, then that's in Barcelona on the 21st next week. So that's all about sisterhood, that's all about jealousy, and really getting curious about what are the gifts there, because often people think about these certain emotions like, oh, jealousy is bad. It's neither good or bad. It's an emotion. It's what you do with it that is important. And there can be gifts in jealousy. So we'll be discussing that next week. And then on the 22nd in Vilanova i Geltrú, so it's a short train ride from Barcelona. This is where I'm based. I'm doing a dance workshop, and that's where we're blending in dance with numerology, and we're exploring the gifts of each of the numbers, and we're really getting clear on like learning about ourselves, but from an embodied experience. Like NLP is wonderful, and it's really important to notice like what's going on in the mind. But when I do the work with the body and the dance and movements, it's a whole other level. So that's on the 22nd. So if anyone's interested in that, you can just send me a message, and I'll send you the information. And of course, these classes, I'm here every week. Well, maybe occasionally I'm not, but most of the time I'm here every week at 7, and this is your chance to ask questions, and each week I'll bring a different topic. Yes, the 22nd of March, so it's a Friday. Yeah. So and yeah, what about the mixture of numerology and NLP? Yes, I did that. I did a whole series of workshops last autumn, which was all about finding your personal blueprint to calm. And that was mixing NLP with numerology. And I think you attended one of those, but the one that was focused more on numerology was in person. So maybe I'll do another one. It all depends on the demand, like how many people are interested. Because it's a lot of work putting together workshops. So the dance one will be on the 22nd of March, and that's that one we will be doing number 5 and number 6. So we'll be talking all about like really connecting with the body and the senses, and connecting with that passion and that inner fire. And also we're going to be talking about love, like that balance of giving and receiving. And we're going to do all of that through dance and movement. And that's €10. So if you're interested in joining, then just send me a message. And if any of you want sessions as well, do you plan to do any weekend with different activities? Like sometimes I do workshops in the weekends, but it's really every now and again, because I'm actually currently doing a training as well. So I'm training in more skills in embodiment coaching. So there's a lot on my plate at the moment. So usually the weekends I'm studying, though. Yeah, maybe I'll do a workshop coming up in Barcelona on the weekend sometime. I'll definitely let you know. If you're on my newsletter list, that's the best place to be, because that's where I announce everything. And then also on Instagram and Telegram, I pop in and put a few things on there, but the newsletter list is the best, and the links in the description. So yes, and as I was saying, like if anyone wants to dive in deeper, then I have one-on-one sessions. One-on-one sessions. This is all about really like having this wonderful place for you. And this is the great thing about NLP. It's not like therapy that sometimes you're there digging and digging and going on for weeks and months and years. There's certainly benefit in therapy, and it can be really useful if it's a forward focused therapy. Though NLP can be very quick and very straightforward and very proactive. So usually it takes very few sessions to make a shift. So I do one-on-one sessions in person and also online, and all the information's on my website. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the interaction. Like, I love this. I love it when it's interactive and I get to connect with you all and hear your shares and hear what you want, and all your questions. It makes such a difference, because when I started these lives a year ago, I started doing these lives and I was talking to myself for quite a while. So it does make a big difference. And yeah, and just to leave the class today with that reminder of that scale. Like, where are you on that scale? Being at cause or at the effect end of the scale? Like, are you taking responsibility, or are you pointing the finger elsewhere? And the true fulfillment and happiness comes when we start pointing our direction, like our attention and our direction, back onto ourselves, not out of like being like selfish or like, oh, only me, but more about like, okay, what can I learn? How can I grow? How can I unfold? There's a great quote by Alexandra Rockstone. She says, let your unfolding be your masterpiece. So I'll leave the class with that. Let your unfolding be your masterpiece. And it's not about reaching an end goal. It's all about the journey and the discovery. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. And I'll be back next week.